Hello and welcome. The wind screams across endless white, carrying with it something far more deadly than the cold itself. You feel it before you hear it, a tremor in your bones, an ancient warning that predates language. Somewhere in the storm, something enormous moves with terrible purpose, and the very air crystallizes in its wake. This is not merely winter's bite. This is the presence of something that has claimed winter as its own. Something that has transformed the frozen waste into a hunting ground, where you are nothing more than prey wrapped in flesh that will soon freeze solid. You find yourself drawn into the world of the white dragon, the most savage and unforgiving of all chromatic dragons. These creatures embody the merciless cruelty of the frozen north, where survival is measured not in days, but in heartbeats, where warmth is a distant memory, and where death comes on wings of frost. The white dragon is not simply a monster to be slain in some heroic quest. It is a force of nature, an apex predator that has perfected the art of killing over millennia. And it views every living thing that enters its domain as either food or competition to be eliminated. White dragons are among the smallest of the chromatic dragons in terms of physical size when compared to their red or black cousins. Yet this fact provides no comfort whatsoever. What they may lack in raw size, they compensate for with savage ferocity and an instinctual cunning that makes them devastatingly effective hunters. Their scales shimmer like fresh snow under moonlight, each one a plate of armor that deflects both blade and spell. These scales possess an iridescent quality that shifts from pure white to pale blue depending on the angle of light, creating a hypnotic effect that has been the last thing countless adventurers have seen before the dragon's jaws closed around them. The dragon's head is angular and reptilian, with a prominent frill that runs from the crown down the length of its serpentine neck. This frill can expand or contract, serving multiple purposes in dragon communication and intimidation displays. The eyes of a white dragon glow with an inner light, pale blue orbs that seem to pierce through blizzards and darkness alike. These eyes miss nothing. They track the subtle movement of prey beneath deep snow, detect the warmth signature of living creatures from impossible distances, and catalog every potential threat or meal within their vast territories. When a white dragon spreads its wings, the membrane stretched between the bone framework appears almost translucent, revealing intricate patterns of veins and sinew. These wings are enormously powerful, capable of generating the force necessary to lift tons of dragon weight into the air and to navigate through the most brutal Arctic storms. The sound of these wings beating is like thunder wrapped in ice, a rhythmic percussion that echoes across frozen valleys and warns all creatures with sense to seek shelter immediately. The most distinctive and terrifying feature of any white dragon is its breath weapon, a concentrated blast of supernatural cold that can freeze a creature solid in seconds. This is not the cold of winter wind or snow. This is absolute zero given form and direction, a cone of freezing energy that crystallizes moisture in the air and turns flesh into brittle ice sculptures. When a white dragon inhales deeply, preparing to unleash this weapon, you can see frost forming on its scales, see vapor condensing around its maw. And if you are close enough, you can hear the crackling sound of water molecules freezing in the air itself. White dragons are sometimes regarded by those who have never faced one as the most bestial and least intellectually sophisticated of their kind. This assessment, however, has proven fatal for many who underestimated them. While it is true that white dragons lack the arcane sophistication of blue dragons or the political cunning of green dragons, they possess a different kind of intelligence, one honed by tens of thousands of years of evolution as perfect predators. They understand terrain with an intimacy that defies explanation. They know every cave, every crevasse, every ice formation in their territory. They comprehend weather patterns instinctively, using storms as cover for attacks or as tools to weaken and separate prey. Their hunting strategies reveal remarkable tactical awareness. A white dragon will observe potential prey for extended periods, learning patterns of movement, identifying the strongest and weakest members of a group, and selecting the optimal moment to strike. They use the environment as a weapon, luring victims onto thin ice, triggering avalanches from above, or driving prey into box canyons, where escape is impossible. They understand that hunger is their ally, that a group without food or warmth for several days becomes desperate and makes fatal mistakes. The dragon's lair represents the culmination of this territorial mastery. White dragons prefer to make their homes in ice caves deep within glaciers, in frozen caverns beneath mountains, or in ancient ruins buried under centuries of snow. These lairs are not simple caves, but complex systems of tunnels and chambers that the dragon modifies over years or even centuries. The main chamber typically features a raised platform or throne of ice where the dragon rests, surrounded by the frozen corpses of previous victims, displayed as trophies and warnings. The temperature within these lairs drops to levels that would kill most creatures within minutes, creating a natural defense that requires no effort from the dragon. The treasure hoards of white dragons differ in some ways from other chromatic dragons. While they certainly accumulate gold, gems, and magical items, they show particular fondness for objects that shimmer or reflect light, especially those with white, clear, or pale blue coloration. Diamonds and sapphires feature prominently in their collections, arranged in patterns that catch and reflect the dim light of their frozen domains. Many white dragons also collect the frozen bodies of particularly impressive prey, creating galleries of ice sculptures that commemorate their greatest hunts. These macabre displays serve both as decoration and as intimidation, showing any who dare enter that this dragon has killed everything from giants to other dragons. They often freeze their treasures into the ice itself, requiring considerable effort from would-be thieves to extract anything of value. The life cycle of a white dragon begins in the frozen wastes. As all white dragon wormlings emerge from eggs laid in the deepest, coldest parts of their parents' lair. White dragons are not nurturing parents by typical standards, based on what scholars have observed of their behavior. The mother guards her eggs fiercely during incubation, but once the wormlings break free, they receive minimal nurturing beyond basic protection. This brutal introduction to existence could be interpreted as ensuring that only the strongest, most cunning wormlings survive, perpetuating the savage nature of the species. Young white dragons learn to hunt through trial and error, starting with small prey like Arctic foxes and seals before graduating to larger targets. As a white dragon ages, it grows not just in size, but in power and territorial dominance. A wormling might control a few square miles of frozen territory, constantly challenged by other predators and forced to fight for every meal. A young dragon expands its domain to dozens of square miles, beginning to inspire genuine fear in the local populations. An adult white dragon commands hundreds of square miles, and no creature within that territory survives without the dragon's implicit permission. Ancient white dragons are forces unto themselves, ruling domains the size of small kingdoms, with reputations that span continents and lifespans that can exceed 1,000 years. The relationship between white dragons and other inhabitants of the frozen north forms a complex web of predation, alliance, and mutual avoidance. Frost giants respect white dragons as kindred spirits of winter, and alliances between powerful frost giant jarls and ancient worms have been known to reshape regional power structures. These partnerships appear to be born of mutual benefit rather than affection. The giants can provide the dragon with information about potential threats, and occasionally with tribute, while the dragon eliminates enemies of the frost giant tribes and provides protection from other dragons or powerful monsters. Winter wolves, rhemaraises, yetis, and other creatures of the frozen wastes maintain cautious relationships with white dragons. Some serve as unwitting guards, their presence alerting the dragon to intruders. Others are simply tolerated as long as they do not compete directly for the dragon's preferred prey. The dragon enforces its dominance through periodic displays of power, devastating hunts that remind every creature in the territory that the dragon sits at the apex of the food chain. The psychological impact of living in white dragon territory cannot be overstated. The people who inhabit these frozen lands exist in a state of constant vigilance, knowing that at any moment the sky might darken with wings and death might descend in a blast of freezing breath. Entire cultures have developed around the reality of white dragon predation. Settlements are built with deep cellars and ice caves for hiding. Watchtowers scan the skies constantly. Children are taught from birth to recognize the signs of an approaching dragon and to seek shelter immediately. Religious practices incorporate prayers and offerings meant to appease or distract the dragon, though these rarely have any effect on creatures that view humans as simply another type of prey animal. The territorial nature of white dragons creates dynamics in regions where multiple dragons might compete for dominance. Young dragons seeking to establish territories must either find unclaimed frozen wastes or challenge existing dragons for control. These battles are spectacularly violent affairs that can last for hours, with both combatants using breath weapons, physical attacks, and environmental manipulation in attempts to gain advantage. The victor claims the territory, and based on draconic behavior patterns we can observe, often consumes portions of the loser, both as a meal and as a symbolic assertion of dominance. The loser, if it survives, must flee to find new hunting grounds or face death. White dragons demonstrate remarkable longevity, with the oldest known specimens having lived for over 1,000 years and possibly longer. This extended lifespan allows them to accumulate vast knowledge about their territories, remember grudges across centuries, and perfect their hunting techniques to an art form. An ancient white dragon has witnessed the rise and fall of human kingdoms, has seen heroes come and go, and has survived countless attempts on its life. This experience makes them far more dangerous than their younger counterparts, as they have learned from every encounter, adapted to every tactic, and eliminated every weakness that previous challengers have tried to exploit. The impact of a white dragon extends beyond its immediate territory through the phenomenon of dragon fear, an aura of supernatural terror that radiates from powerful dragons. When an ancient white dragon takes flight, creatures below feel an overwhelming urge to flee, a primal panic that overrides rational thought and training. This fear is not simply psychological, but magical in nature, affecting even those who have never seen a dragon before. It is the accumulated weight of the dragon's presence, its magical nature asserting dominance over lesser creatures. Warriors who have faced demons without flinching have broken and run when dragon fear washes over them. And there is no shame in this, for it represents the natural response to encountering something that exists on a fundamentally different level of power. As you contemplate the nature of white dragons, you begin to understand that they represent something more than simply powerful monsters to be defeated. They are the frozen north made manifest, the embodiment of winter's cruelty and beauty. They are survivors from an age when dragons ruled the world, when their power was unquestioned and unchallenged. In their pale blue eyes, you can see what might be interpreted as the memories of millennia, the accumulated knowledge of countless hunts, and the absolute certainty that they are superior to all other forms of life. This is what makes them so dangerous, not merely their physical power or their deadly breath, but their fundamental nature as apex predators that have been perfected over geological timescales. Section 2. Legendary Worms of the North. The names echo through taverns and around campfires, spoken in hushed tones that betray the fear even seasoned adventurers feel. These are not simply white dragons, but legends carved in ice and blood, ancient worms whose reputations have transcended the already terrifying nature of their kind. Each has shaped the history of the frozen north, left scars upon the land that persist long after their passing, and created stories that parents use to frighten children into obedience. You need to understand these individual dragons, for in their tales lies the truth of what white dragons can become when given centuries to perfect their craft of terror and domination. Ah-rau-tha-tor, known throughout the Sword Coast as the Old White Death, stands as perhaps the most infamous white dragon in all of Faerun. This ancient worm has prowled the sea of moving ice for centuries, establishing a reign of terror so complete that even the most hardened sailors refuse to venture into certain regions of the frozen waters. Ah-rau-tha-tor's immense age is evident in every aspect of his being, each scale thick as a shield and harder than the finest steel. His body stretches to enormous proportions, with wings that can span vast distances when fully extended. When he rises from the waters, ice sheets crack and shatter, and the sound carries for miles across the frozen sea. The Old White Death earned his name through methodical cruelty and an almost supernatural ability to appear precisely when ships believe themselves safe. Ah-rau-tha-tor has developed hunting patterns over centuries that demonstrate remarkable intelligence and patience for his species. He allows vessels to penetrate deep into the sea of moving ice, waiting until they are far from any hope of rescue or retreat. Then he strikes, not with the blind fury of a young dragon, but with calculated precision. Based on accounts from survivors, he appears to target ships systematically, crippling their ability to escape before beginning his true predation. This methodical approach suggests a level of tactical thinking that contradicts the common perception of white dragons as simple brutes. The dragon's lair exists somewhere within the vast ice fields of the Sea of Moving Ice, though its exact location remains a mystery that has claimed the lives of numerous would-be dragon slayers. Those few accounts that exist describe massive ice formations and treacherous frozen channels that protect the approach. Ah-rau-tha-tor has accumulated a treasure hoard befitting his ancient status, filled with the plunder of ships and the wealth of those who thought they could negotiate with a creature that views them as prey. What makes Ah-rau-tha-tor particularly dangerous beyond his physical power is his network of relationships with other creatures of the frozen north. The dragon has established connections with various entities in his territory, creating a web of information that keeps him aware of potential threats and opportunities. Through these sources, Ah-rau-tha-tor gains knowledge about major expeditions into the region, allowing him to prepare for or avoid encounters as he sees fit. He has disrupted multiple attempts to establish permanent settlements in the sea of moving ice, viewing any encroachment on his territory as an intolerable challenge. The legend of Ah-rau-tha-tor includes encounters with adventurers and heroes throughout his long existence. The dragon bears scars from these battles, marks that speak to both the dangers he has faced and his ability to survive them. These imperfections do not diminish the dragon, but rather enhance his fearsome reputation, for they prove that even when challenged by skilled opponents, Ah-rau-tha-tor has consistently emerged victorious. Far to the south, in the frozen peaks of the spine of the world, another name commands recognition in northern lore. Icing-Death, a white dragon of tremendous power, carved his legacy into the glaciers and valleys of Icewind Dale. This worm terrorized the region for an extended period, preying upon travelers and settlements. The dragon's story became forever linked with the barbarian warrior Wulfgar of the tribe of the Elk, whose confrontation with Icing-Death became legendary throughout the north. The dragon's lair sat high in the mountain peaks, protected by treacherous terrain and harsh weather conditions. Based on what we know of white dragon behavior, Icing-Death would have created a complex system of ice chambers filled with his accumulated treasure, including weapons and items taken from those who challenged him unsuccessfully. The harsh environment surrounding the lair served as a natural defense, eliminating many potential threats before they could reach the dragon himself. Wulfgar's encounter with Icing-Death has become celebrated in northern tales. The young barbarian entered the dragon's lair as part of a quest, facing the worm in what should have been an impossible challenge. The confrontation between warrior and dragon became a defining moment, demonstrating that even mighty white dragons could fall to courage and skill. The dragon's defeat marked a significant event for Icewind Dale, eliminating a threat that had shaped the region's development for generations. From the encounter, Wulfgar gained both renown and treasures that would feature in his later adventures, including the famous scimitar that bore the dragon's name. In more recent times, the dragon known as Cryovane has established himself as a threat in the region around Icespire Peak. This young white dragon, while not possessing the ancient power of worms like Ah-rau-tha-tor, demonstrates the savage effectiveness of his species even at earlier stages of development. Cryovane claimed Icespire Peak as his territory, driving out previous inhabitants and establishing a lair within the mountain's frozen caves. What makes Cryovane noteworthy is his aggressive approach to territorial expansion and his willingness to attack settlements directly rather than limiting himself to isolated prey. The dragon has launched assaults on nearby communities, each attack calculated to cause disruption and fear. He destroys structures, kills livestock, and creates an atmosphere of terror that serves his purposes. This behavior suggests an understanding, perhaps instinctual, that frightened communities make mistakes, and that fear itself can be as effective as direct predation. Cryovane's lair on Icespire Peak provides him with excellent visibility over vast stretches of territory, giving him an advantageous position for observing potential prey and threats. From this vantage point, he can watch the movements of travelers and plan his hunting accordingly. The dragon has begun extracting tribute from some settlements, demanding regular deliveries in exchange for temporary peace. This behavior demonstrates intelligence and strategic thinking that, while perhaps not matching the sophistication of other dragon species, proves effective in achieving his goals. Beyond these specific examples, white dragons of considerable reputation inhabit frozen regions throughout various lands. In the spine of the world and surrounding territories, multiple ancient worms maintain domains and compete for dominance. These dragons represent the ultimate expression of white dragon power. Creatures so mighty that established powers must account for them in planning and strategy. Ah-rau-tha-tor, known as the white worm, maintains a domain in the far north. This ancient female has lived for over 1,000 years and possesses powers that command respect from all who know of her existence. She has survived encounters with powerful opponents and accumulated a hoard that includes items of significant historical and magical value. Ah-rau-tha-tor represents what white dragons can become when given centuries to grow in power and cunning. A creature whose reputation extends far beyond her immediate territory. Each of these legendary dragons has contributed to the broader understanding of white dragon nature and behavior. They demonstrate that while all white dragons share certain fundamental characteristics, individual variation exists within the species. Some, like Ah-rau-tha-tor, favor methodical and patient approaches. Others, like Cryovane, embrace more aggressive and direct tactics. Some establish networks of allies and information sources, while others remain primarily solitary hunters. Yet underlying all these individual differences remains the fundamental nature of the white dragon. A savage, efficient predator that views the world through the lens of hunger and territorial dominance. The treasures contained within these legendary lairs represent more than simple wealth. They are collections that tell stories of the dragon's prowess and history. A weapon in a white dragon's hoard once belonged to a warrior skilled enough to reach the dragon's lair, but not powerful enough to leave it alive. A magical item in the collection came from an opponent whose power proved insufficient against the dragon's natural advantages. Each piece serves as evidence of the dragon's victories and the dangers of challenging such creatures. Some dragons arrange their hoards with consideration for aesthetics, creating displays that showcase particularly impressive pieces or organize items in pleasing patterns. Others accumulate wealth in less organized fashion, caring primarily that it belongs to them and marks their success. White dragons show particular appreciation for items that capture and reflect light, creating chambers that sparkle even in dim illumination. Diamonds, crystal items, silver objects, and platinum coins feature prominently, arranged to maximize their visual impact. The impact these legendary dragons have had on regional history proves substantial. Ah-rau-tha-tor's presence has influenced development and travel patterns throughout the sea of moving ice, limiting maritime activities and shaping how northern communities interact. Icing death's long predation in the spine of the world affected the culture and society of Icewind Dale, creating populations hardened by constant vigilance. Cryovane's recent establishment at Icespire Peak has disrupted local communities and forced them to adapt to new threats. These dragons have also inspired countless individuals to test themselves against draconic power, drawn by promises of glory, wealth, or revenge. Most such challengers do not return. Their remains joining the collections in dragon lairs as warnings to future generations. A few succeed, their names entering legend alongside, or even surpassing the dragons they defeated. But success comes at tremendous cost, and even victorious dragon slayers often emerge changed by the experience of facing such overwhelming predatory power. The relationship between these legendary dragons and the communities that exist in their territories creates complex dynamics. Some settlements develop elaborate warning systems and defensive preparations. Others attempt negotiation, offering tribute in hopes of buying safety, though such arrangements remain precarious at best. Religious and cultural practices in dragon territories often incorporate elements acknowledging the dragon's power, treating them as forces comparable to natural disasters or divine entities. As you absorb these tales of legendary white dragons, you understand that they represent the species at its most powerful and most dangerous. These are not young dragons struggling to establish themselves or adults content with modest territories. These are worms that have survived centuries, perfected their methods, accumulated vast power, and established themselves as undisputed rulers of their frozen kingdoms. They are the dragons that inspire fear in their own kind, whose names alone can affect the decisions of kingdoms, and whose continued existence shapes the development of entire regions. Section 3. The frozen wastes they command. The territories claimed by white dragons exist at the edges of civilization, places where winter never truly releases its grip, and where the landscape itself seems hostile to life. You must understand these frozen wastes not as empty wilderness, but as carefully controlled hunting grounds, domains that serve the dragon's purposes through both natural advantage and deliberate modification. Each mountain range, each ice sheet, each frozen valley can function as ambush point, observation post, or natural barrier that channels prey into vulnerable positions. The land and the dragon exist in relationship with one another, each shaping the other over time. The spine of the world rises along the northern coast of Faerun like a wall of stone and ice, stretching for over 1,000 miles and reaching heights that pierce the clouds. This mountain range forms the northern boundary of civilized lands, separating the relatively temperate regions to the south from the brutal Arctic conditions that dominate the north. White dragons favor the spine of the world for numerous reasons that become clear when examining their needs. The mountains provide countless caves and crevasses suitable for lairs. The elevation creates temperature conditions cold enough, even in warmer seasons, to satisfy the dragon's preferences. The terrain offers tactical advantages, with narrow passes that channel movement and high peaks that provide unobstructed views of approaching threats or opportunities. Within the spine of the world, certain peaks have become associated with dragon presence over the years. Icespire Peak and Kelvin's Cairn, along with numerous other summits, serve or have served as dragon territories, marked by the absence of natural prey animals and the dangers that await those who approach. Dragons modify these mountains over time, using their breath weapons and physical strength to carve deeper ice caves, reshape defensive features, and create the environments they prefer. The weather patterns around dragon-controlled peaks can differ noticeably from surrounding areas. Blizzards may form with greater frequency, appearing with less warning than in other locations. Temperature drops can become more severe. Snow accumulation increases. Whether these effects result directly from the dragon's magical nature, from deliberate environmental influence, or simply from the cumulative impact of the dragon's breath weapon and presence, remains a matter of scholarly debate. The practical result remains clear. Approaching a white dragon's mountain lair means contending not just with the dragon, but with exceptionally hostile environmental conditions. Icewind Dale sprawls at the northern base of the spine of the world, a vast tundra region where the 10 towns maintain their existence against overwhelming natural challenges and constant threats. This region has experienced white dragon activity for as long as records extend, with different dragons claiming territory over the centuries. The dale itself offers limited natural shelter, with most of the landscape consisting of relatively flat, featureless tundra, broken primarily by 3 lakes that provide the fish populations supporting much of the human habitation. White dragons patrol Icewind Dale when it falls within their territorial range, drawn by the concentration of settlements and the travelers who move between communities. The flat, open terrain offers dragons significant advantages in hunting, as prey has limited places to hide, and dragons can spot potential targets from considerable distances. The lakes themselves become hunting grounds during winter when they freeze solid, and dragons familiar with the territory understand which ice will support weight and which sections might collapse, potentially driving prey into freezing water. The cultural impact of living in or near white dragon territory has shaped aspects of 10 towns society based on what we can observe. Architecture tends toward thick stone walls and reinforced construction that might better survive attacks. Settlements include underground spaces for shelter. Economic systems account for potential losses to various threats, including dragon predation. Training emphasizes awareness and survival tactics appropriate to the dangers of the region. The sea of moving ice extends north from the Sword Coast, a constantly shifting maze of icebergs, ice flows, and frozen channels where navigation requires considerable skill, experience, and fortune. This region represents one of the most dangerous environments for those who must travel there, as the conditions themselves pose lethal threats even without considering predators. Ah-rau-tha-tor, the old White Death, rules vast portions of the sea of moving ice, and other dragons patrol different sections, creating territories that sometimes overlap and occasionally lead to violent disputes. The ice formations in this region achieve enormous proportions. Icebergs the size of small islands drift with the currents, their surfaces marked by caves and crevasses that could conceal dragons of any size. The ice moves constantly, grinding against itself with tremendous force, creating new formations and destroying old ones in an endless cycle. White dragons navigate this chaos with apparent ease, using their intimate knowledge of their territories to travel through channels and rest on formations that appear stable but might prove treacherous to those unfamiliar with local conditions. Ships that venture into the sea of moving ice do so out of necessity rather than choice, driven by need to reach destinations or access resources available through no other route. These vessels employ experienced navigators, warriors trained for Arctic combat conditions, and sometimes even spellcasters capable of providing magical protection or support. Despite these precautions, vessels disappear in the sea of moving ice with disturbing regularity, claimed by dragons, crushed by ice, or lost in conditions where visibility and navigation become nearly impossible. The dragons of the sea of moving ice have adapted their hunting techniques to the maritime environment. They observe from positions of concealment, surfacing only when optimally positioned. They may target vessels during storms when visibility drops, and when crews already struggle against the elements. They use icebergs as cover, concealing their approach until prey comes within striking range. Some dragons appear to recognize the markings of different vessels, potentially targeting those that seem most valuable. White dragons can swim with considerable grace, despite their primary nature as creatures of air and land. They hunt marine prey in frigid waters, sometimes remaining submerged for extended periods in pursuit of seals, walruses, and other creatures. Some dragon lairs connect to surface areas through underwater passages, accessible only to those capable of extended breath holding or water breathing. Vasa stretches east of major mountain ranges, a frozen region where civilization exists primarily in scattered, fortified settlements that survive through strength and adaptation. This area has experienced various periods of conflict and upheaval throughout its history. White dragons view Vasa as attractive territory, with vast expanses suitable for hunting and sufficient settlement to provide prey, without necessarily facing organized military resistance of the kind that major kingdoms might mount. Communities in Vasa maintain complex relationships with the region's various threats, including dragons. Some attempt tribute arrangements, negotiating temporary periods of reduced conflict that might last varying lengths of time before circumstances change. Others adopt defensive policies, maintaining forces trained to counter dragon attacks and offering rewards for dragon-related successes. A few desperate leaders have attempted to secure dragon support against rivals, trading information and treasure for temporary draconic assistance. These alliances typically prove unstable, as dragons view such arrangements as purely transactional and feel no lasting loyalty to temporary partners. Damara borders Vasa to the south, a kingdom that has contended with northern threats for generations. White dragons may cross into Damaran territory, viewing political borders as irrelevant to their hunting rights. The kingdom maintains watch positions along threatened frontiers, with warning systems ready to alert communities of dragon approach. Military forces include specialized units equipped with appropriate gear and trained in tactics designed to counter white dragon advantages. Despite these preparations, dragon attacks continue to claim lives and destroy property. The creatures that survive in extreme frozen environments demonstrate remarkable adaptations. Frost giants thrive in conditions that would kill most humanoids, their bodies naturally resistant to cold, and their culture emphasizing strength and endurance. They build structures within harsh environments and hunt the large creatures that inhabit frozen regions. White dragons view frost giants as potential allies or competitors, depending on circumstances and relative power. A powerful frost giant leader might command enough respect to negotiate with a dragon on more equal terms, while weaker groups might simply become additional prey when the dragon grows hungry. Winter wolves roam tundra and mountains in packs, their coloration providing camouflage against snow, and their magical nature granting them intelligence approaching humanoid levels. These creatures sometimes develop working relationships with white dragons, providing information about intruders or threats in exchange for hunting rights within dragon territory or shares of kills. The relationship remains pragmatic, with both sides understanding that cooperation serves mutual interests while circumstances could change. Remoraises tunnel through snow and ice, enormous creatures that generate internal heat and prey on whatever they encounter. White dragons generally maintain distance from remoraises when possible, as these creatures provide relatively little value as prey compared to the effort and potential danger involved in killing them. The two species largely avoid each other, with dragons hunting above ground and remoraises remaining beneath the surface, except when emerging to feed. Yetis inhabit mountain caves and frozen valleys, savage creatures driven by hunger and possessing limited intelligence. White dragons may tolerate yetis within their territories, as long as the creatures do not compete for preferred prey. Yetis can serve useful purposes from the dragon's perspective, as their presence helps discourage casual exploration, and their tendency to collect shiny objects sometimes leads them to accumulate small hoards that the dragon can claim when convenient. The settlements that persist in white dragon territories represent human determination to survive and prosper despite hostile conditions. These communities exist in constant awareness that danger might arrive suddenly. Yet they endure because the frozen north offers resources available nowhere else. Fishing provides food from cold northern waters. Mining operations extract valuable materials from mountain ranges. Hunting yields furs and hides that command premium prices in warmer markets. These economic opportunities draw people willing to accept the risks of living in dangerous territories. Architectural features become immediately apparent when observing these settlements. Buildings feature thick walls constructed from available materials, with minimal windows to retain heat and limit potential entry points. Roofs slope steeply to shed snow and prevent accumulation. Central areas may include reinforced structures designed to provide emergency refuge. Underground spaces connect through passages, allowing movement between buildings without exposure to aerial threats. Social structures in these communities emphasize collective survival over individual advancement, which we might expect given the environmental pressures. Watch rotations ensure constant vigilance. Resource pooling systems help communities weather losses and setbacks. Combat training extends broadly through populations, as defense requires coordinated effort. Religious practices may incorporate prayers for protection and offerings to deities associated with strength, endurance, and survival. The economic impact of white dragon predation extends beyond immediate territories. Trade routes adjust to avoid known dragon hunting grounds, adding distance and cost to journeys. Risk assessments for northern travel include substantial considerations for dragon threats. Services related to defense and protection command premium compensation. The weapons and armor trade flourishes, with specialized equipment in constant demand. Healing and recovery services become essential infrastructure, as attacks create injuries requiring more than conventional treatment. These frozen wastes shape not just physical geography, but cultural landscapes. Songs and stories about encounters circulate through gathering places, serving both as entertainment and as vehicles for teaching important lessons. Children learn safety practices from early ages, absorbing knowledge about warning signs and emergency procedures. Coming-of-age traditions may involve tests of endurance or skill that prove young adults possess capabilities necessary for survival. Social customs include provisions for dragon-related tragedies, establishing rights and permissions should the worst occur. The territories themselves change under dragon influence over time. Hunting pressure affects prey populations, forcing adjustments throughout food chains. The dragon's breath weapons and magical nature influence local conditions, creating zones of especially severe cold even in areas that might otherwise experience some seasonal variation. The psychological impact of constant threat affects how communities develop, limiting expansion and discouraging exploration of potentially valuable but dragon-controlled areas. The frozen wastes remain frozen not just through natural climate, but through the shaping influence, both deliberate and incidental, of the dragons that rule them. Section 4. Survival and Conflict. The moment you realize a white dragon has marked you as prey, your survival depends on decisions made in seconds, while your mind screams with primal terror. Every adventurer who has faced these apex predators and lived carries knowledge purchased with blood and frost-damaged flesh. Lessons learned in moments of absolute desperation, when the difference between life and death came down to a single choice made correctly. You need to understand these survival principles not as abstract theory, but as practical wisdom that might save your life when dragon fear threatens to overwhelm reason and instinct urges flight into terrain where the dragon holds every advantage. The first principle of white dragon survival involves awareness and prevention. You must understand that by the time you see the dragon, it has likely observed you for some period already, based on their documented hunting behavior. White dragons study their prey with patience that contradicts their savage reputation, learning group dynamics, identifying strengths and weaknesses, and waiting for optimal moments to strike. Your best chance of survival begins long before any encounter, through constant vigilance and recognition of warning signs that indicate dragon territory. The absence of natural prey animals provides an important clue. When you travel through frozen wastes and notice the complete lack of caribou, Arctic foxes, or other creatures that should inhabit the region, understand that predators have learned to avoid this area. The dragon has hunted this territory thoroughly enough that even animals with limited intelligence recognize the danger and stay away. Frozen corpses preserved in ice offer another warning, particularly when you find them displayed where travelers will encounter them. Dragons create these displays deliberately, marking territory and warning potential prey that they have entered hunting grounds. Unusual ice formations merit careful examination. White dragons reshape their territories over time, creating ice structures that funnel prey into predetermined paths, carving caves that serve as ambush points, and modifying terrain to eliminate escape routes. When natural geography seems suspiciously convenient for an ambush, or when ice formations appear shaped by intelligence rather than random formation, trust your instincts and alter your route. Weather changes that occur with unusual suddenness may signal possible dragon presence. White dragons possess some connection to winter storms, and while the extent of their direct control remains debated, their magical nature appears to influence local conditions. When clear skies darken rapidly, when temperature drops dramatically without warning, when wind shifts suddenly from a specific direction, consider that a dragon might be using the storm as cover for approach. Seek shelter immediately rather than attempting to continue travel, as visibility during these conditions drops severely while the dragon's senses function effectively. If prevention fails and you find yourself facing a white dragon directly, your survival depends on understanding the creature's attack patterns and exploiting the narrow windows of vulnerability that exist. The dragon's breath weapon represents its most devastating attack, but comes with limitations that provide brief opportunities. After exhaling the cone of freezing death, the dragon requires time to regenerate this capability, typically measured in seconds, but crucial seconds, where it must rely on physical attacks alone. This recovery period offers your best chance to strike effectively or to create distance for escape. The dragon's size, while intimidating, creates blind spots that smaller creatures can potentially exploit. Positioning yourself in close proximity to the dragon's body places you outside the effective range of its breath weapon and limits its ability to bring all its natural weapons to bear without exposing itself to counterattack. This tactic requires extraordinary courage, as closing to melee range with a creature that can crush you with casual strikes demands perfect timing and unwavering nerve. Yet accounts of successful dragon encounters include examples of combatants employing exactly this strategy, accepting the risks of close combat in exchange for neutralizing the dragon's ranged advantages. Cold resistance, whether natural, magical, or provided through potions or enchanted items, transforms an encounter from near certain death to possible survival. The dragon's breath weapon loses much of its terror when you possess protection against cold damage, while the physical force of the blast still poses danger. The supernatural freezing that crystallizes flesh and stops hearts becomes manageable. Experienced travelers in dragon territory invest heavily in cold resistance, viewing it not as optional equipment, but as essential survival gear. Magical flight capabilities shift the tactical balance considerably when you can meet the dragon in its own element, matching its aerial mobility. The encounter becomes closer to a true battle rather than a hunt where you serve as prey. Flying combatants can exploit three-dimensional space, forcing the dragon to divide attention between multiple targets at different elevations. They can retreat vertically when the dragon prepares breath attacks, use altitude to gain momentum for strikes, and deny the dragon some of the ground-based tactical advantages it typically employs. Dragons recognize this threat and often prioritize eliminating flying opponents first, understanding that their greatest advantages erode once prey takes to the air. Group tactics against white dragons require coordination that surpasses anything needed for typical combat encounters. The dragon will attempt to separate your group, using terrain, breath weapons, and dragon fear to scatter what should be a unified force into isolated individuals, easily eliminated one by one. Maintaining formation under these conditions demands discipline and trust. Leaders must make decisions instantly, as hesitation allows the dragon to seize initiative. Communication systems need redundancy, as dragon roars and the sound of wind over wings can make vocal commands impossible to hear. Effective groups assign specific roles before engagement begins, based on tactical principles observed in successful encounters. Ranged attackers focus on maintaining consistent damage output, forcing the dragon to divide attention rather than focusing entirely on melee combatants. Defenders position to intercept charges or protect vulnerable spellcasters who require concentration for their magic. Healers maintain awareness of the entire battlefield, ready to restore fighters who take devastating hits. Scouts watch for environmental hazards or additional threats, as dragons sometimes operate in proximity to other dangerous creatures that might join the battle opportunistically. The dragon's intelligence means it will adapt tactics as battle progresses, something that becomes clear when examining accounts of extended encounters. Strategies that work initially lose effectiveness as the dragon recognizes patterns and adjusts approach. Groups must prepare multiple tactical options, ready to shift from one approach to another as circumstances change. This flexibility requires practice and experience fighting together, qualities that cannot be purchased with gold or granted through magic. Frost giant tribes maintain complex relationships with white dragons that range from wary alliance to open conflict. The giants possess natural cold resistance and physical strength that makes them credible threats even to powerful worms. When frost giant leaders and white dragons form alliances, the results can reshape regional politics. The dragon provides aerial reconnaissance and devastating strike capability, while the giants offer ground forces, intelligence networks, and the ability to hold territory the dragon cannot effectively occupy. These alliances form around mutual benefit rather than affection or loyalty, based on what we can observe of both species' behavior. A frost giant leader might ally with a dragon to eliminate rival tribes, or to assault a fortified settlement that the giants alone cannot conquer. The dragon accepts the arrangement because the giants drive prey into optimal hunting positions, or because destroying the settlement serves the dragon's territorial interests. Both parties understand the arrangement remains temporary and contingent on continued mutual benefit. Conflicts between frost giants and white dragons achieve legendary status when they occur. Battles between powerful creatures that can last hours and leave landscapes permanently altered. Giants employ tactics designed to counter dragon advantages, using thrown projectiles to threaten flying targets, creating fortifications that provide cover against breath weapons, and fighting in close formation where their numbers might overwhelm even enormous predators. Dragons respond with aerial attacks, environmental manipulation to trigger avalanches or collapse ice shelves, and by targeting leadership to create chaos and disorganization. The cult of the dragon has extended its influence to include some white dragons, though recruiting these savage predators proves more challenging than with other chromatic species. Based on what lore tells us of cult activities, the cult's promises appeal less to white dragons than to their more intellectually sophisticated cousins, as white dragons focus on immediate physical dominance and hunting prowess. Despite these challenges, some cult cells have successfully recruited white dragon allies, typically younger adults seeking support against older dragons or ancient worms whose intelligence has developed sufficiently to appreciate longer-term schemes. Dragon hunting companies operate throughout the frozen north, mercenary groups that specialize in tracking and confronting dragons for payment. These organizations employ experienced warriors, skilled trackers, and sometimes even spellcasters capable of providing magical support. The companies market themselves to nobles whose lands suffer dragon predation, to merchant consortiums seeking to secure trade routes, or to adventurers who need additional manpower for dragon confrontations. Success rates vary dramatically, with the most prestigious companies boasting impressive records, while lesser organizations may serve primarily as distraction while employers escape. The most effective dragon hunting companies operate with military precision if accounts of their methods are accurate. They research target dragons thoroughly before engagement, studying previous encounters, interviewing survivors, and gathering intelligence about lair locations and hunting patterns. They employ specific weapon loadouts designed for dragon fighting, favoring reach weapons that allow engagement outside the range of claw attacks, ranged weapons enchanted for additional damage, and cold-resistant armor that provides protection against breath weapons. They drill constantly, practicing formation movements and tactical responses until they become automatic even under the stress of dragon fear. Notable battles between adventurers and white dragons populate northern history, each offering lessons in what works and what fails against these apex predators. The encounter between Wulfgar and Isingdeath demonstrated that even young warriors could triumph against mighty dragons through courage and skill, becoming celebrated throughout the North. Other confrontations throughout history show varying outcomes, with some resulting in dragon victories and others in successful defeats of the worms. The dragon's breath weapon demands special attention in any tactical discussion. This cone of supernatural cold extends 60 feet for adult dragons, covering an area large enough to catch multiple targets in a single blast. The temperature drop occurs instantaneously, freezing moisture in the air and creating a visible cone of frost crystals. Creatures caught in the effect experience immediate and catastrophic damage as water in their bodies crystallizes. Blood freezes in veins, and organs fail from sudden temperature shock. Surviving a breath weapon requires more than simple endurance. Positioning matters enormously, as the cone spreads from the dragon's mouth and creatures at the edges might catch only partial effects. Cover provides limited benefit, as the supernatural cold flows around obstacles. Distance offers the best protection, staying beyond the weapon's range or retreating rapidly when the dragon prepares to exhale. Visual cues telegraph the coming attack. The dragon's chest expands visibly, frost forms around its jaws, and vapor condenses in the air near its mouth. Experienced dragon fighters learn to recognize these signs and react before the weapon deploys. Magical items forged from white dragon parts carry particular value and significance. Armor crafted from dragon scales provides natural cold resistance and impressive physical protection. Weapons incorporating dragon teeth or claws often gain magical properties related to cold damage or penetrating defenses. Dragon blood, properly preserved and prepared, serves as powerful component in potions and alchemical preparations. The dragon's heart, removed intact and preserved through specific rituals, can grant significant cold resistance or immunity to those brave or desperate enough to consume it, according to certain traditions. The process of harvesting these materials from a slain dragon requires both skill and haste. Dragon corpses begin deteriorating after death, with magical energies dissipating and physical remains losing their extraordinary properties. Experienced hunters work quickly, identifying the most valuable components and extracting them efficiently. Scales must be removed carefully to preserve their structure. Organs require immediate preservation. Blood needs collection before it congeals and loses potency. The entire process occurs while exhausted from battle, often in hostile environment, with the possibility that the dragon's allies or other predators will arrive to investigate or claim the corpse. As you internalize these lessons of survival and conflict, you recognize that facing a white dragon represents the ultimate test of adventurer capabilities. Success requires preparation, courage, tactical awareness, and often significant fortune. Even the most experienced dragon slayers approach these encounters with respect bordering on dread, understanding that overconfidence leads to frozen death. The dragons that fall to mortal weapons represent only a fraction of those encountered, countless others continue their hunts, adding to their legends and proving once again that they deserve their fearsome reputations. Section 5. Legacy of Winter's Wrath. The influence of white dragons extends far beyond their immediate territories, rippling through history like cracks spreading across ice. You witness their impact in altered trade routes that add weeks to journeys, in the architecture of northern cities designed around defense considerations, in the songs that mothers sing to warn children about the dangers lurking in winter storms. These dragons have shaped civilization's relationship with the frozen north, creating a culture of survival that defines entire populations, and establishing themselves as permanent fixtures in the collective consciousness of every society that borders the Arctic wastes. The Dracoridge mythal stands as perhaps the most catastrophic event in draconic history, a magical phenomenon that drove dragons of all species into mindless fury and violence. This ancient elven magic, created millennia ago during the height of elf-dragon conflicts, activated periodically throughout history with devastating effect. When the rage descended, even the most intelligent and civilized dragons lost themselves to primal violence, attacking everything in sight without reason or mercy. White dragons, already savage by nature, became even more devastating forces during these episodes, their inherent aggression amplified beyond normal measure. During the year of the Dracoridge in 1373 Dale Reckoning, white dragons descended from their mountain lairs in waves that brought unprecedented destruction. They attacked settlements that had maintained careful relationships with dragon neighbors for generations. They destroyed territories that had been considered neutral or safe. They killed other dragons as readily as they killed humanoids, engaging in battles that reshaped landscapes through the sheer destructive power unleashed. The coordination of these attacks, despite the maddened state of the dragons, suggested something deeply troubling about the nature of the rage itself. The aftermath of the Dracoridge left permanent scars throughout Faerun and beyond. Entire regions became depopulated as survivors fled dragon territories. Kingdoms that had maintained working relationships with dragons found those connections shattered. The dragons themselves, emerging from the rage to discover what they had done in their madness, responded with reactions ranging from remorse to denial to renewed violence born of shame and anger. White dragons, based on what we understand of their psychology, generally showed limited concern for their rage-driven actions, potentially viewing the period as simply an extension of their normal predatory behavior. The breeding cycles of white dragons follow patterns that ensure the species remains viable despite relatively low reproduction rates compared to more prolific creatures. According to draconic scholars, female white dragons lay clutches of eggs only periodically, investing enormous energy into each reproductive cycle. The eggs themselves possess shells that appear to be solid ice, but demonstrate hardness exceeding steel, providing perfect protection for the developing wormlings and maintaining stable temperature regardless of external conditions. The mother dragon guards her eggs with fierce dedication during the incubation period. During this time, she rarely leaves the nest chamber, surviving on stored body fat and occasional meals. Any creature that approaches the nest during this period faces instant and merciless death, as the dragon's protective instinct overrides even hunger. She will fight to her last breath-defending eggs that represent her genetic legacy and the continuation of her line. When the wormlings finally break free from their shells, they emerge as miniature versions of their parent, already possessing complete instincts for hunting and survival. The mother provides protection for an initial period, allowing the wormlings to learn through observation and experience. Sibling competition begins immediately, with stronger wormlings claiming the best positions and taking choice portions of any food the mother provides. This competition rarely turns lethal while under the mother's watch, as she intervenes if conflicts escalate too far, but it establishes hierarchies that influence the wormling's development and eventual dispersal. Within a relatively short time by dragon standards, the wormlings begin accompanying their mother on hunts, learning to fly, to use their developing breath weapons, and to recognize prey and threats. This education period lasts some years, after which the mother drives her offspring from the territory, forcing them to establish their own domains. The young dragons scatter across the frozen north, seeking unclaimed territories or preparing to challenge weaker dragons for control of established hunting grounds. Many die during this vulnerable period, falling to rival dragons, organized hunters, or simple failure to secure adequate prey. Those who survive emerge as the next generation of apex predators, carrying forward their species' legacy of dominance. Half-dragons bearing white dragon heritage walk a difficult path between human and dragon natures, based on what accounts exist of such individuals. These rare beings inherit physical traits from their draconic parent, including scaled skin that shimmers with frost-like quality, resistance to cold that allows comfortable existence in temperatures that would kill normal humans, and sometimes even limited breath weapon capability. Their human heritage grants them social adaptability and emotional complexity that pure dragons lack, while their dragon blood bestows physical power and instinctive understanding of draconic behavior. Many half-dragons bearing white dragon blood appear drawn to the frozen north, feeling kinship with the environment and understanding the dragons that hunt there in ways full humans cannot. Based on patterns, we might expect from their dual nature. Some become guides and scouts, using their cold resistance and dragon knowledge to lead expeditions through territories others cannot safely navigate. Others embrace their predatory heritage, becoming hunters or mercenaries who employ draconic tactics. A few attempt to bridge the gap between dragon and human societies, serving as intermediaries in rare negotiations, or helping those who must face dragons understand their adversaries well enough to develop effective strategies. Sorcerers manifesting draconic bloodlines connected to white dragons display particular magical affinities according to arcane traditions. Their spells often incorporate cold damage or ice-based effects. They demonstrate natural resistance to freezing temperatures that grows stronger as they develop their magical power. Some manifest physical changes, including scale growth, eye color shifts to pale blue or white, or the development of small horns or frills reminiscent of their draconic ancestors. The most powerful draconic sorcerers can eventually learn to exhale cones of freezing breath similar to true dragons, achieving in magical development what their mixed heritage denied them by birth. The connection between white dragons and elemental ice runs deeper than simple affinity for cold environments, based on what magical scholars have theorized. These dragons could be interpreted as living bridges between the material world and the elemental planes, their very existence channeling elemental ice energy into physical reality. Ancient white dragons particularly demonstrate this connection, their lairs potentially becoming locations where the boundary between planes grows thin and elemental ice bleeds through invisible ways. The temperature in these locations drops below what natural weather might explain. Ice formations display geometric patterns that seem impossible in nature. Time itself appears to slow, frozen like the environment. The Frostfell, that legendary realm of eternal winter existing in spaces between planes, calls to white dragons in ways they cannot fully articulate, according to certain accounts. Some ancient worms claim to experience visions of vast frozen palaces and cities of ice inhabited by creatures of living winter. A few dragons have attempted expeditions into the Frostfell, seeking these dream visions, or simply exploring the ultimate expression of their beloved element. Most never return, lost in that infinite frozen expanse, or claimed by the entities that dwell there. Those who do return speak of wonders and horrors beyond mortal comprehension, of cold so absolute it affects the flow of time itself, and of an emptiness that makes even the Arctic wastes seem warm and welcoming by comparison. Climate shifts and changing weather patterns affect white dragon populations in ways we can begin to understand. Warming trends that reduce glacier coverage and shorten winter seasons force dragons to seek territory farther north or at higher elevations, compressing their available habitat and increasing territorial conflicts. Some dragons adapt, modifying their lairs to maintain preferred temperatures regardless of external conditions, or adjusting hunting patterns to account for prey behavior changes. Others respond with increased aggression, attacking settlements or simply striking out in frustration at conditions they cannot control. Conversely, periods of extended cold or advancing glaciers create opportunities for white dragon expansion based on historical patterns. During these times, dragons claim new territories previously too temperate for comfortable habitation. They push into regions normally dominated by other dragon species, their cold tolerance giving them advantages in cooler climate. Settlements in these zones face new dragon pressure, forcing evacuations or defensive preparations against threats their ancestors never encountered. The future of white dragons in a world of increasing magical development and expanding civilization remains uncertain. Populations continue growing, claiming more territory and developing more effective weapons and defensive magic. Dragon hunting has evolved from desperate survival necessity to organized profession, with companies and adventuring groups specifically targeting dragons for glory and profit. Each slain dragon represents permanent reduction in the species population, as their slow reproduction rates mean losses take considerable time to replace. Yet white dragons demonstrate remarkable resilience and adaptability, as their long history proves. They learn from encounters with dragon slayers, adjusting tactics to counter new weapons and strategies. They form alliances when necessary, working with frost giants or other powerful entities to eliminate threats beyond their individual capability to handle. They relocate to more remote territories when pressure becomes too intense, maintaining viable populations in regions so hostile that expansion remains impossible. The magical nature of dragons ensures their continuation even in the face of organized opposition. Dragons are not simply large predators, but embodiments of elemental forces and primal magic. As long as winter exists, as long as ice and snow cover the world's highest peaks and most remote regions, white dragons will likely endure. They represent something fundamental about the world itself: the savage beauty of winter and the merciless efficiency of natural predation, refined to its ultimate expression. You stand now at the end of this journey through white dragon lore, having explored their nature, met their legends, traversed their territories, learned their vulnerabilities, and contemplated their place in the broader world. You understand that these creatures represent more than obstacles to be overcome or treasures to be claimed. They are living monuments to the power of survival, proof that savagery and intelligence need not oppose each other, and demonstrations that the frozen North belongs to them by right of conquest and adaptation, spanning vast stretches of time. When you next hear wind howling across frozen wastes, when you see frost forming patterns on glass, when you feel that peculiar cold that seems to penetrate deeper than mere temperature should allow, remember the white dragons. Remember that somewhere in the storm, ancient eyes might be watching. Remember that every frozen corpse tells a story of underestimated danger. Remember that the ice holds memories of every creature that dared challenge the dragons and failed. The white dragon's whisper carries across time and distance, a message encoded in every blizzard and frozen breath. It speaks of dominance earned through countless millennia, of hunting perfected beyond any rival's ability to match, and of a savage beauty that defies civilization's attempts to tame or eliminate it. These dragons will hunt as long as winter exists, will claim territories as long as ice forms, and will inspire terror and respect as long as storytellers gather to share tales of the frozen wastes and the magnificent terrors that rule them. If you found yourself drawn into these frozen tales, if you felt the chill of the dragon's breath, even in warm safety, consider leaving a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the deep lore and hidden histories of the worlds we love. Share your own dragon encounters, your survival stories, or your questions about these apex predators in the comments below. The frozen North holds countless more secrets, and together we will uncover them all, one whisper at a time. Thank you for joining this journey into the heart of winter. May your fires burn bright, your walls stand strong, and your watch remain vigilant. Until next time, stay warm, stay safe, and remember that in the frozen wastes, you are never truly alone.